Now this is what I call a nice day out. It's sunny and I'm up here in the Bushcraft heaven doing some tracking training. So I was down at the string bed overnight. I'm testing out my completely newly composed versatile sort of light field gear. It's all built around the Umlindi, these pants and the Swagman, Helikon Swagman as versatile insulation. I have the entire kit set up down the way, so I'll show you that later. But basically it's like thin hammock, thin down quilt, Swagman, and then my 3/4 length Z rest inside of that, a bivy bag, a very thin one. And then the next layer would be Jerven Bag around the outside, which I have with me. And then on top of that only would be a warmer sleeping bag. So very versatile setup. My plan is to have basically this gear always on me from now until the summer. So it's kind of plus 15 to minus 35, which will be Finland. And in Finland I'm going to think about a toboggan, very thin plastic rollable toboggan, and that 120 litre big sack. Then you can think skis and heated tarp, heated lavus, sort of lightweight heated lavus with titanium stove and things like this, and hocks. So, but right now I've just been doing a bit of tracking. Like I say, I've been doing sort of 1 foot and then, pick up the things about it, 10 clues, somewhere between 5 and 10 clues. Did it for about an hour. It's quite strenuous, but it helps you with your pattern recognition. And basically in the same way that when you start to see or eat brambles or any kind of berries in the woods, very often suddenly they're jumping out at you, which maybe before you didn't see. It's the same with tracks. It's purely cognitive science. You have to give your brain the pattern to see, okay, this is what it looks like when you tread the grass down, and here's how long it takes until it comes back up again. And the brain just stores these things, especially if you write them down or say it. And then it has this big database. As it's scanning, of course, it's filtering a lot of information out that you don't sense, right? That you don't perceive. Otherwise, the world would be a trip all the time. So you have to tell it what patterns you want it to say. Hey, look at this. Okay, just like when you were a kid, the red light, green light on the traffic. But if you're an adult, it's immediately doing something. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, looking at tracks, imprinting what things look like here, all this crushed stuff, and even a bit of the swirl as I was moving and turning my foot. Here, an imprint, and the leaf is cracked, and yeah, suddenly you start seeing all these things. If you want to see a really amazing video about that, have a look at micro tracking. Fernando Moreira. He is coming to our place in the spring, and just because he's got 50 years of experience, and gonna have him over for a week and get some of our local search and rescue people over, and Kit and other tracking friends, and just learn from each other. Cool. So there we go. Now I'm gonna go find these boys. I heard them before. I roughly know where they are, so see if I'm really liking this Gorka. So right now I'm just wearing it with that vest underneath because the sun went in and it's just a little bit windy. But with this I have a lot of freedom of movement, and I can go quite quickly, sort of aerobically, and if I sweat a lot it doesn't matter. And then I just keep layering things underneath it. It's essentially the durable layer. So I have like a merino and a Klima hoodie, and then I can put a little down vest underneath it, or my Helikon warm puffy. And the key is actually to then only take very lightweight Gore-Tex, but to put the Gore-Tex underneath the durable layer. There's a lot of advantages to that. One is that your durable layer is going to probably be wet by the time you put your rain jacket on anyway. Two, it means you can have a very thin so your durable layer will be wet, and then you're going to put a Gore-Tex jacket on over that, or you have to store the durable layer somewhere, which is just silly to put a Gore-Tex jacket on over a durable layer, first of all. Secondly, if you put it underneath the canvas layer or the gerbil layer, then you can have a much thinner Gore-Tex, because it's not going to get abraded, it's not going to get torn by thorns, you're not going to get mud on it, which also helps to keep the pores open. So the cleaner you can keep your Gore-Tex, the better it works. And then you also can use it sort of as a vapor barrier liner if you have to, but in any case it just means you can take something much thinner and lighter, which is then more likely you'll have it with you. It's the same if now I were to get caught in a terrible downpour, I would get my little space blanket that I have in my pocket here, make a little hole in it and wear it underneath this thing as a poncho. And this would help so much in any kind of terrible weather. It really wouldn't matter. And I have another little space blanket. I put it as a cowl over here, and the rain is just shed. So think about that. Anyway, so now the sun comes back out again. I'll be glad that I can really push these arms up a lot and open it very widely at the front. But it won't last. It's a bit to and fro today. Super nice day to be out on the walk for a walk in the hills, I must say. Doing a bit of movement practice down there on the steep section behind here. Trying to get fit for winter a bit. Yeah, all good. So now I'm imprinting baseline, as we say, on various textures. So now this is gravel, right? A forestry track. So what does it look like when gravel gets disturbed? Let's get the sun in the right place here. Okay. Looks like this, for instance. So here you see it's wetter than the rest, which means it's relatively recently been turned over. It's the same kind of stones, but these are dry, including the little ones. Here you can see it better. So this is wetter than all the rest of the stones in the same area. And there's more of it here. So when you look back at it like this, you get an impression of movement in that direction. It is difficult, but you know, things like crushed vegetation that's recently been crushed against a rock. Let's see if I did some here. Yeah, look here. I just did that. I just crushed this onto this rock here. You can even see some of the transfer. And I crushed, maybe I crushed this one a bit as well, but certainly those crushed rocks are a good sign. Scuff marks, like this, little scuff mark. And then, you know, if you look at this plant now, okay, it's stood up, and it's in its natural position. If I now go stand on it, okay, now this one's leant over. Here's a little bit of imprint from the leaf. So the purpose isn't that you are able to, you know, see these things jump out at you and at a, you know, 10-meter distance and magically be able to spot it, but it is just to kind of take a mental picture of, well, this is what it would look like, because you know it's what it looked like because you just did it, right? So this is what this looks like when you just stepped on it. So you just build up a database of these things cognitively, and you start to see the connections. Yes, you do. So, continue. Here's an interesting indicator for aging. So you have here, this one is dead, whereas this one here is still living. This one's still living, but we know, anyway, because there's lots of other tracks here, but we know that the car has come here, so it's crushed this one and it's died off. Right, that's why its little neighbor hasn't. And it's crushed it here somehow as well, and you can also see the scuff mark here. So this, the difference between these two, the one that didn't get hurt and the one that did, and how far it's aged, can tell you a bit about when that actually happened. So this is just the application of what we've been calling just notice. Let's just notice some working now. And all the other things we've been doing, right? The bouncing to kind of get yourself steady. The concept of nooming is the same. the Kalahari Bushmen do this. So we do this bouncing thing, then you drop onto your heels, and then after a while you just close your eyes and extend your senses to far away, 360 bubble, and then come closer. And it's a really quick way of just calibrating your senses, and we do it each time we change terrain, or you know, when there's some significant adjustment in what we're doing. So, or every couple of minutes, just because it's fun. So we've been, just noticing that there's some snow starting to appear on the mountains. Cool, I like it. I like having a little optic with me, so this is a 8x25 nautical little monocular. Very robust, super, very good optic. I mean, actually meant for professional nautical use. So, pretty good in all kind of light. It's not as sharp as you might have for a hunting one, but it's very easy on the eye, which means that you can actually look through it for quite a while. It's not about picking out every last, you know, pimple on the nose of a warthog or something. But yeah, really good for scanning and just getting a better look at things. 8 is plenty, 25 is quite tight, but I like 8x40s, but they're obviously a bit more bulky. But 8x25 is okay. I like to carry that optic in the front pocket of the Gorka, and I just set it up so that it's easy to access it, and also to put it away, so that it's just easily usable, and I know where it is all the time. Yeah. So you can smell it, and there it's fresh. But the stones are cold, so that means they made fire, but not for very long. Now they're gone, so I'm going to see if I can find them. And I think, now I look at the probabilities, what are the exits? If I were them, and I was going, where would I go? Well, none of that. Probably not that. Probably not that. Doesn't look too inviting, so probably over here. I'll just have wander along there, I think. So I just did probability, 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 and what looks most likely, and then, I get rewarded with freshie. So I continue along the probable path and look for signs of passage. Obvious ones, but really, it's a mixture, really, of just moving on the probable path and imagining if there was a sign, where would I be able to see it? Because human adult makes 2,500 prints per mile, so they're going to be there. So look, here's another obvious leaf turned over and broken recently because it's still fresh and not green and dried up. Before we had a broken stick here. You could imagine going down through here. So just eliminate this exit by looking. Probably primary place of sign if we went this way would probably be from here to there, somewhere along here, and what I'm actually seeing here is animal stuff, so along here it is. Oh, yep, and here's another nice one. On inclines it's always easier to find them because you're having to put a lot of pressure, like here, scuffs and stuff. And yeah, just here's a nice, great, sharp impression. If you look at the edges in this, pretty nice, and it goes all the way down here. So I'll catch up with them. So the exercise that I'm doing now is that I'm walking down quite swiftly, walking down this forestry road here, and what I'm doing is I'm just scanning for evidence of passage. Doesn't matter how old or anything, just the objective is identify evidence of passage without slowing down just while you're walking. And just say, best is to say out loud here, but you kind of look like a weirdo, but you know, evidence of passage, evidence of passage, evidence of passage, evidence of passage. And just get in your head evidence of passage, what it looks like as you walk past it. And make sure it sticks by saying it or writing it down, or at least saying it with language. It makes the two parts of your brain connect, and then you can remember it better. And then your brain will know, the subconscious part of your brain that sees all that stuff, will know that the language using part of the brain wants to know about it. Cool, huh? So, and then as I'm walking along, yeah, where do I see them? What makes them obvious? How far away was I before I noticed them? What about them made me notice it? What happened, you know, what were the surroundings that made it that here were going to be the tracks? You know, and then maybe zoom in on them a bit. Roughly what kind, how many, there's like about 6 different ones there. But that's normal because this is a track. But that's the thing. Where would they be if I could see them? What would they look like? So this kind of like head-up display of probability to tell you where to be looking and where to be scanning. So now I'm going to introduce you to this, what I'm calling my versatile field gear setup. So it's based on the Hill People Gear Umlindi bag with a Tarahumara here on the front. It's about a 35-40 litre Jerven bag on the bottom, and then we have the heavy prairie belt here with the with my canteen stuff on the front. So it's basically a layered system. I have my usual belt pack on. So I've got my, you know, always usual belt pack on. Then you have the possibility to have the Tarahumara either on its own as a little pack, or on the belt pack, or with the shoulder straps as a little day bag. And then I have set up here my hammock system. So it's just a nice big comfortable tarp, and then I have my 3/4 length Z rest as usual, and the real killer app here is the Helikon Swagman, which works really nicely as a hammock pod. So the trick is to set your hammock up with a carabiner here, so that you can do this part of the zip up all the way. And then you have a very comfortable pod, both for sitting astride and for sleeping. And then inside this, I'll show you what's in there. I put the so I will put this Z rest here between the hammock and the insulation, so that it keeps the wind off a little bit. And I have a little quilt here, Z rest quilt, and what I usually do is I just put a little down vest on, and that would then be the a bivy bag in here. So I just put a little light hunka, extra large bivy bag, also just to keep the wind off. But if the weather is very bad, then I will put the quilt and the Swagman in the bivy bag, and I'll get in all of it, and I'll sit into the hammock, sacrificing that it will probably get wet. So very versatile system. Of course, you know the Jerven bag, so the next level of warmth would be to put the Jerven bag on the outside as a pod, and only then, and maybe actually take another even warmer jacket, and only then would I think about actually bringing a warmer sleeping bag. So this way you have many layers. Same with this durable stuff, so having the merino, a puffy, if necessary the thin waterproof layer underneath the durable layer. So similarly here would be, if it was really horrible weather, the quilt and the Swagman on, stand on the Z rest and literally get into the sleeping bag, so be like in a big cocoon, and get into the hammock with all that stuff wrapped up around you. So that was, actually I needed that in the Alps. Sometimes it's so wet on my running trip, sometimes it's so wet that even under the tarp you're getting wet. So that's the field setup. Today I was, as you can see, I was doing some tracking. I've got these UF Pro 2nd gen striker pants. They are really good. The next layer of warmth under here would be a pair of thigh length ski touring pants that I got from Decathlon. And also I do have the Gore-Tex, thin Gore-Tex pants, and again I would wear these underneath the durable layer. So that's the setup at the moment. Nice little stick, pretty good for tracking. And with this I'm hopefully plus 15 to minus 25. And this will also be the basis of my gear for Finland. And in Finland I would then add the big 120 litre red dry bag and a little roll-up toboggan. Probably my durable layer would then be the Fjallraven anorak instead of this one, and I would take a bigger warm puffy layer. But other than that, probably not very much different. Additional sleeping bag, but then with all that extra gear also then comes a toboggan, and so on. So then you have in tobogganing mode, you'd have your day bag with just survival gear. This thing would be on the toboggan. The big red bag would have all the bedding. That would be inside the Jerven Bag. And so you'd have a setup for that. And the prairie belt, this wide belt here, it would be a really good belt for pulling the pulk as well. So, and for kiting. Oh cool, there's Mr. Sepp. Hello Mr. Sepp. Signaling device.